What an eventful day. Short interest on AMC, 40%, 17%, higher, lower. Who knows? That's what TD Ameritrade is saying. We're going to cover that a little bit here in this video. I have always said from the get-go of AMC, I think the short interest is in between 40 and 80%. So honestly, this does not surprise me. This is right along my expectations if this is true. Now, it's very interesting why it is actually coming up like this, and I have my own theory, so I think you guys will find value out of that. I also want to go over the estimated earnings numbers coming next quarter, because the earnings growth is about 35 to 40% from where it was last quarter, and that's ultimately going to help crush the short thesis even more. They're going to turn over $1 billion of revenue with a lean business, a much more efficient business, and that's going to be very good for the shareholders of that business. But we're going to go over the technical analysis. We are forming the last shoulder right now, so we are almost fully formed the inverse head and shoulders. We could come down a little bit, but then I do expect takeoff, and we'll break down all the technicals, the Ortex data, Stochastic tracker data, the intraday data that you need to know. So hit the like button for me. Consider subscribing to the channel, as well as comment down below. Let me know what you think about this information. And take a look at this hat before we get into it. See that? If you know, you know. All right, let's get this show on the road. So we have TD Ameritrade coming up that the short interest is 40.25% as of December 15th, 2021. It's possible it's a glitch, but we already know the short interest is at least 40% due to the market makers, the hedge funds, basically everybody that is behind this manipulative scheme on AMC. That's exactly what it is. That is hiding the short interest on the option chain. So this is no surprise. It's, if anything, more validation to some of you guys that didn't believe the short interest was higher than the Ortex data. I've known this. So honestly, I'm not surprised. I do think it could be a glitch, like I said, but I think it's probably their own systems accounting for a lot of different variables that are coming up with their own number. They might not even realize, I doubt they realize they are putting this out there. I'm sure somebody from TD Ameritrade is going to see a video talking about this, and they will probably update this to where the exchange reported short interest data came in. Who knows? I think it's good for those of you guys, like I said, that are a little skeptical on the high short interest. But for those of you guys that have been in this a long time, you already know the short interest is at least 40%. Now, as far as the earnings, the quarterly sales are expected to be $1.16 billion. Last quarter, we only had $770 million of sales. So that's about a 35% revenue increase. That is huge. I cannot understate this enough. If you want the MOAS to happen, you need to see fundamentals increasing and getting better. I shouldn't say you have to see that, but it's a lot easier to stay in your short positions if the business is going through the toilet. It's a lot harder to get big money to actually trade alongside apes, because we want all the buying power from far and wide, from your mom to your grandma to hedge funds to fucking market makers, everybody to buy the stock, because that's when you are going to see the stock just go crazy, right? So if you have a fundamental backing, it's a lot easier to buy a stock. Me personally, I don't buy a lot of shit companies, even for trades, because I'm like, hey, my worst case scenario is probably like $2. The stock's at 20. I can't do that. But if my worst case scenario is 15 and the stock's at 20, kind of comparatively to where AMC is now, then I'm more inclined to buy it, right? I think it makes a lot of sense. But on average, analysts expect AMC will report full year sales of $2.52 billion for the current financial year, with estimates ranging from $2.47 billion to $2.57 billion for the next fiscal year. Analysts expect the business will report sales of $4.93 billion, with estimates ranging from $4.87 billion to $5 billion. Why is this so important? AMC Financial highlights. I will crush the short thesis right now and prove the shorts will have to cover in 2022 at some point. Take a look at this. Take a look at this. I know you guys hate hearing fundamentals, but like I just said, they are important. So you're just going to have to deal with it. Hopefully you find value out of it. So right now, operating revenue, what they are bringing in for their revenue numbers. We currently sat at $1.3 billion as of last quarter. Our cost of revenue, the amount of money AMC has to pay to make the operating revenue, was at $1.7 billion. Take a look, 2018 and 2019, we were at $4.5 billion for cost of revenue to make $5.5 billion of operating revenue. Next year, we're going to be as low as $3 billion for this cost of revenue, as high as $3.5 billion on this cost of revenue. That is still $1 billion less that AMC has to pay to potentially make $5 billion. That's a $2 billion difference instead of a $1 billion difference. That is where your profit margin comes from. The business is much more efficient now, and that's really all that matters. If sales are $5 billion, that's almost where they were at in 2018, 2019, but AMC will actually turn a much bigger profit next year in 2022 because it costs way less to make that money. They have shut down their bad theaters. They're lean, right? I think it makes sense. And we're seeing that reflected in the numbers. And that's something financial media will not tell you. And that is ultimately why I am very excited to see how big money places their bets starting January and February. That's a big component of why my price target for the end of January, if not possibly the second half of February, is around $60 per share. You don't want to be short on AMC heading into next year. And that's proof that the MOAS is going to happen at some point in 2022. Fundamental case, just it doesn't make sense to not cover, right? So I think that's pretty straightforward. Let's get into some of the intraday data that you guys need to know. Hit on some technical analysis as well. So we're looking at 17.07% short interest offer flow. Take it with a grain of salt. TD Ameritrade, Ortex, whatever you guys want to go off of. 87.61 million shares that are sold short. Return shares 1.22 million. Borrow shares 1.56 million. Borrow change 337,000 shares. Share utilization 76.5 days to cover, 2.35 days to cover. That is pretty much flattened out, as it should, as the price is pretty much flattened out, went down just a little bit. But you can even see the inverse head and shoulders on this little chart right here. We're set for a massive explosion. Benzinga says the upside is about 50% with this inverse head and shoulders. So that would take us to about the $47 range. So if that happens, you're looking at the price of the stock going straight up to here. And I think it could personally go higher than that. Once the momentum actually does start flowing and people start buying the stock, it's going to be incredible. Now, let's pull up the Bollinger Bands, because we are seeing literally getting pushed down by the 20-day simple moving average. Look at this. It's incredible. Honestly, it's a little crazy, but it's ultimately just incredible. We're following this to a T. Probably will follow this down to the $25 mark, and then you will see that bounce. The one thing we don't want to happen is to retest $20 per share. I don't think that's going to happen. I think either way it goes, you are going to see a move up in the price in the first couple weeks of January, because that's when the new tax year starts. You can't tax loss harvest anymore. You're essentially setting up for the rest of the year. And a big indicator of my whole reason why I think AMC is actually going to rally is because the MACD as well. I'm sure you guys have heard that. It's incredibly bullish right now. And even as the price has been going down, the MACD is still getting more bullish. And that just doesn't happen all the time. But if we also pull up the moving averages, I got to go ahead and update these because Weeble just changes my shit all the time. Thank you, Weeble. You could see these are going to be important levels as well. The 200-day moving average, which sits right here, that's at about $32.82 per share. Once we gap up and we break above that, that's going to get me very excited. If we break to $47, we're going to be past all our resistance levels with a lot of cushion to the potential downside. It doesn't look like we would go up and come straight back down to these lower levels. So I think that's good. AMC is actually bouncing right now as well. And you guys can see we are still in this weird little, channel, if you will, right? If you do simple trend lines here. So we're going to break this. We're going to break this. It's a given fact. Once we do break out above the 20-day moving average, that's when I would place more trades if you're an options trader or something. Until then, I wouldn't touch this with options, but that's going to be the sign once we do break that 20-day moving average. If that's something you guys do, who knows. But we are seeing very low volume for the day. Only 21.1 million shares that have traded hands. This is actually incredibly bullish because once you start to get 40, 50, 60 million shares that trade hands to the bullish side, then you're going to see a big increase in share price, and the stock is not falling all too much for super, super low volume. You guys can see the volume candle right here. You almost can't see it because it's so small, but we're only down 1.08%. So that is good right there. Stock tracker data as well, obviously, that January 21st, 2022 is really the date I'm paying a lot of attention to. These dates till then don't matter as much, but we do have 200,000 calls that are out of the money expiring Friday, 8,500 calls that are in the money expiring Friday. So virtually nothing. We're not seeing any added buying power, but I do expect a lot of these calls that are out of the money to actually start being rolled over to the January 21st, 2022. You're going to see a lot of people betting on this option expiration date for obviously good reason. I believe this is the highest numbers we've ever seen with still, 3-4 weeks until this is actually here. So I think it's going to be really good. The put side, same thing as well. 308,000 puts that are out of the money. Institutions that are hiding short interest on this option chain will have to make a choice. Do I sell out of my losing put? Do I roll it over and spend a lot more to continue to hide my short interest? Or do I just sell the put, take the loss on the short position and cover? It's going to be interesting. And I think there's a strong case to be made that a lot of shorts will just choose to cover at, around January 21st, 2022. So that's basically the scoop. That's what you guys need to know. If you guys found value out of this video, or if you like the hat, if you get what it means, hit the like button for me. Consider subscribing to the channel. Let me know down below in the comment section. What do you guys think? Do you think the short interest is 17%? Do you think it's 40%? Do you think, like me, it's in between 40 and 80%, like I've said for the last 7, 8, 9 months now? But that's all. Love and appreciate you guys. Thank you for watching this video. I will see you in the next one.